think?
I'm fucking hungry now, you know.
Yeah, Jesus. I'm saying we can stop, get pancakes, and then we'll get laid, all right?
There is an old saying in Hollywood that audiences always remember the stars. The names printed in the largest letters, the faces that dominate the posters, the actors who carry entire films on their shoulders. But anyone who has spent a lifetime watching movies knows that isn't always true. Sometimes the person who stays with us the longest isn't the hero at all. It's the stranger who appears unexpectedly, says very little, changes the entire atmosphere of the story, and somehow becomes impossible to forget. If you grew up watching films throughout the 1980s, 1990s, and early 2000s, you've almost certainly experienced that feeling. You may not have walked into the theater to see Peter Stormare. You may not even have known his name. Yet years later, certain scenes remain crystal clear in your memory because of him. A cold stare, a quiet smile that feels strangely unsettling, a calm voice delivering words that somehow sound more dangerous than a shouted threat. He possessed the rare ability to make audiences uncomfortable without relying on exaggerated performances or dramatic speeches. That remarkable gift was no accident. Long before Hollywood discovered him, Stormare had already spent years mastering an entirely different tradition of acting in his native Sweden. While many performers chase attention from the very beginning of their careers, he was learning something much more valuable: discipline, patience, precision, and the importance of understanding every moving part of a performance before trying to stand out within it. His education at Stockholm's prestigious Royal Dramatic Theatre gave him a foundation built on classical stagecraft, rather than celebrity. Every movement carried intention. Every pause had meaning. Every line existed to serve the larger story instead of drawing attention to the actor delivering it. Those lessons would later become the invisible strength behind every unforgettable character he created on screen. When American filmmakers finally began casting Peter Stormare, they weren't simply hiring another talented European actor. They were discovering someone who understood how to transform a scene without overpowering it. Instead of becoming the center of attention, he learned how to shift the balance of an entire film with only a handful of carefully chosen moments. That quiet philosophy would become the defining signature of a career unlike almost any other in modern Hollywood. And it all began long before audiences around the world ever recognized his face. Hollywood rarely changes its mind overnight. It watches. It waits. And only after an actor proves they can do something no one else can, does the industry begin opening bigger doors. For Peter Stormare, that turning point arrived during the 1990s, when a series of unforgettable performances quietly transformed him from an unfamiliar European character actor into one of the most distinctive screen presences of his generation. One of his earliest Hollywood appearances came in Damage in 1992. Although it wasn't the role that made him famous, it introduced filmmakers to an actor who brought unusual authenticity to every scene. There was no trace of vanity in his performances. He never seemed interested in appearing likable or glamorous. Instead, he committed completely to the reality of each character, no matter how unsettling that reality might be. Directors noticed. More importantly, audiences remembered. Everything changed 4 years later with the Coen brothers' Fargo. Even viewers who had never heard Peter Stormare's name suddenly found themselves unable to forget the silent, terrifying criminal Geir Grimsrud. In a film filled with memorable dialogue and eccentric personalities, Stormare achieved something extraordinary by saying almost nothing. While the people around him argued, panicked, and explained themselves, his character simply observed. His silence became more intimidating than anyone else's words. What made the performance so remarkable wasn't its violence, but its restraint. Stormare resisted every temptation to exaggerate. He never played the role like a traditional movie villain. Instead, he portrayed a man who carried out horrifying acts with frightening calm. making every moment feel disturbingly believable. That quiet intensity turned Gere into one of the most unforgettable antagonists of the decade. After Fargo, Hollywood began to understand exactly what Peter Stormare could offer. Steven Spielberg cast him in The Lost World: Jurassic Park, where he once again left a lasting impression despite limited screen time. Soon afterward came Armageddon, where he revealed another side of his talent by blending eccentric humor with complete sincerity. Whether portraying menace or comedy, Stormare had discovered something incredibly rare. He didn't need to dominate a film to become one of its most memorable parts. By the end of the 1990s, directors no longer saw him as simply another supporting actor. They saw him as someone capable of elevating an entire movie the moment he stepped into the frame. By the early 2000s, Peter Stormare had reached a point that very few character actors ever achieve. Audiences might not have bought a ticket because his name appeared on the poster, but whenever he appeared on screen, they immediately paid attention. He had become one of those rare performers whose presence alone promised that something unexpected was about to happen. That reputation only grew stronger with films like Minority Report, where he fit naturally into Steven Spielberg's futuristic world while still bringing an edge that made his character stand apart. Yet it was his unforgettable portrayal of Lucifer in Constantine that many fans still consider the finest performance of his career. Instead of presenting the devil as a loud, theatrical monster, Stormare chose the opposite approach. Calm, polite, almost friendly. He created a version of evil that felt far more disturbing because it never needed to announce itself. Even though he appeared only briefly near the film's conclusion, his performance became one of the movie's most talked-about moments and remains beloved by audiences nearly 2 decades later. Television introduced Stormare to an even wider audience through Prison Break, where his commanding presence added another layer of tension to an already gripping series. Around the same time, he expanded into voice acting, lending his unmistakable voice to major video games including Call of Duty, Until Dawn, and Destiny. Whether audiences saw him on screen or simply heard his voice, they instantly recognized the same unmistakable intensity. Perhaps that is what made Peter Stormare so unique. He never depended on lengthy speeches, dramatic monologues, or constant screen time. Instead, he mastered something far more difficult: the ability to leave an unforgettable impression with remarkable economy. In an industry where so many actors compete to be seen, Stormare proved that sometimes the most powerful performance belongs to the one who says the least, appears briefly, and yet remains in our memories long after the credits have finished rolling. For many actors, success is measured by awards, leading roles, or box office records. Peter Stormare chose a different path. Rather than spending his career chasing fame, he quietly built a life centered on creative freedom. It was a decision that may have kept him from becoming a conventional Hollywood superstar, but it also allowed him to remain one of the industry's most respected and enduring character actors. Away from the cameras, Stormare never limited himself to film alone. Music has long been one of his greatest passions, offering him another outlet for storytelling and artistic expression. Even after establishing himself in Hollywood, he continued returning to the stage whenever opportunities arose. Theater was where he first learned the discipline of acting, and it remained an important part of his artistic identity throughout his career. Unlike film, the stage offers no second takes and no opportunity to correct mistakes, a challenge Stormare has always embraced. His personal life has reflected that same balance. Dividing his time between the United States and his native Sweden, he has largely avoided the celebrity lifestyle that often surrounds successful actors in Hollywood. While many performers spend years cultivating a public image, Stormare has preferred to let his work speak for itself. He has remained devoted to his family and has rarely sought the spotlight outside of promoting his projects. Perhaps that is the secret behind his remarkable longevity. Peter Stormare never tried to become the biggest name in Hollywood. Instead, he focused on becoming an actor that directors could trust completely, regardless of the size of the role. For more than 4 decades, that philosophy has allowed him to move effortlessly between major studio films, independent productions, television series, theater, music, and even video games. In an industry where so many careers rise quickly and disappear just as fast, Stormare's quiet consistency has become one of his greatest achievements, proving that lasting respect is often earned far away from the brightest lights. Today, Peter Stormare stands as living proof that an extraordinary career doesn't always have to follow Hollywood's traditional rules. Now in his early 70s, he continues to work steadily, selecting projects that genuinely interest him rather than chasing fame or leading man status. While many of his contemporaries have slowed down or retired, Stormare remains active across film, television, voice acting, and music, demonstrating the same creative curiosity that first brought him to audiences decades ago. In recent years, fans have continued to enjoy his memorable appearances in productions such as John Wick Chapter 2 and the acclaimed television series American Gods. His unmistakable voice also remains in demand for major video game franchises, introducing a new generation of audiences to the unique screen presence that older movie lovers have appreciated for years. Away from Hollywood, Stormare continues to divide his life between Los Angeles and Sweden, maintaining close ties to his Scandinavian roots while enjoying a quieter family life with his wife and daughter. Looking back, it becomes clear that Peter Stormare's greatest achievement was never becoming the biggest star in the room. It was becoming the actor audiences could never forget, even after only a few minutes on screen. For nearly 40 years, he has reminded us that true talent is measured not by the number of leading roles, but by the lasting impression left behind. And as long as Peter Stormare continues choosing challenging, unconventional characters, there is every reason to believe that his remarkable story is still being written, one unforgettable performance at a time.